Hello and welcome to the Let That Shift Go podcast. I'm Noel.
And I'm Lina.
And this is where we talk about the good, the bad, and all the shift in between.
We'll just talk mad shift.
Let's get into it. Do you want a first-class ticket to a guilt trip? Set a family boundary.
You get yourself a ticket.
Yeah, to guilt. But first, let's get into the skin deep cards. You want to go first?
Sure.
Okay. Ask away.
Here we go. When were you most worried for me?
Wow. Actually, when you left nursing.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Tell me about that. You thought I'd gone crazy.
I think, you probably would have thought it was when you split with Armando.
Yeah.
But somehow I knew you were just a tough ass chick, so you were just kind of on your way.
Yeah.
But when you decided to step away from nursing, I was nervous for you because I was also one of those people because I hadn't, really found my awareness officially kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you were talking about that, I didn't know what it was all about and how much of a thing it is and really how much you were helping people. I didn't really see that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had already seen you, what a jerk you are for being a flight nurse, literally saving people. And you were going to step away from, what quite frankly was like the top of your, field. And so for you to step away, I was really worried because I saw you have doubt. And I wasn't used to seeing you have self-doubt.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was worried for me too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't realize that you were worried for me. But now looking back at that time, you didn't know really a lot about the path I was on.
Yeah, I didn't know about the path you were on. And the fact I'm used to you leaning on you for that strength, that pillar,
Mm-hmm.
and to see you kind of shook a little bit. Like I've seen you shook before, but in a way that you just weren't sure.
Yeah.
And
I was taking a big leap.
Yeah, it
of
was
faith.
total like a leap. And I was like, wow, that's so scary. So I was worried, maybe in ways because I want to make a similar, just step out of something that I'm in and into something different, and what that's like.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So my question is, what's the one thing you used to love to do as a kid that you no longer do and why?
Let's see. I used to climb trees, like to the very tippy top of the tree.
Yeah, you
and
were
be
like
that
a
weird
monkey.
kid.
Yeah, I remember you at like Potomac Park, and you'd be like, "What the hell?
How'd she get up there?"
Yeah.
So that's one thing I used to absolutely love to do, and just like climb them like a ladder. Like pine trees were the best ones, and I'd come down and have sap all over me,
your shirt,
in my hair and everything, and I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But I would get to the very top of the tree and just look around and just sit up there. So that's something
And you don't do it anymore. Why?
Well, because I can't.
Physical. We'll just leave it at.
Just physically, I don't see myself climbing up a tree. Up to the very top of a tree. I'll sit in trees, sit next to trees.
You like swings in trees.
I love to swing in trees, all of that. But yeah, I'm probably not climbing up a tree because now I'm like, if I fall, it's not, you're not 9.
Yeah. You're more grounded.
I'm way more grounded now. Yeah.
Okay, we'll accept that.
I stay close
answer.
to the ground.
All right. Well, let's get into this topic here. Setting boundaries with family. This is a really tricky topic out there because, we have deep connections in family.
Yeah.
And if you bring things up, you can, bring up complex feelings when you need to set these boundaries. Right?
Yeah. But you're going to feel guilt, fear, shame.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just over trying to prioritize your own needs.
Yeah. So how do we balance the family ties with our mental health in a way that feels authentic?
It's not easy, but I feel like more and more people are realizing that their mental health is pretty important. And part of being able to protect your mental health or to be able to care for yourself in that way is sometimes to say no to things that, are upsetting or kind of push you into a place of feeling overwhelmed or resentful. And so now we're getting to a place, I think a lot of us are getting to a place where we're like, we're not really doing that anymore. If I don't want to do something or if I don't want to participate in something, it's going to actually cost me more to say yes than to just say, I'm not comfortable with that. But I don't think we've all been taught ways to do that without feeling guilty or full of shame. So I think this is something where an important topic, because I think many of us are moving into the space of wanting to do that more, wanting to be more authentic about what we feel and what we want, but we're not sure how to navigate it because we didn't really see it modeled.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the quotes I love by Brene Brown is, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. And that sums it up.
It talks about self-love.
Yeah.
And choosing your happiness and
yeah.
When
for the most part, we're praised for sacrificing our own happiness.
Yeah.
For everyone else. And that becomes like an award.
Yeah. In my family dynamic, it was our kids really just had to go along with whatever we were doing,
Yeah.
And they didn't really have a lot of say of like, oh, I want to go play this or that, or we were just busy doing our thing. So I think they just got caught up into what we wanted to do and our values.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until they started speaking up and saying, oh, I want to spend time with my friends, or I want to try football. Then it was like, oh, we got to make time for these things.
Yeah. Well, that's why, it's really challenging to set boundaries with family, because the family is often where we first learned about our relationships, acceptance, and
cultural expectations, also.
Love. Yeah. It's deeply rooted in our psychology. So it's making boundaries often feels like you're betraying.
Oh, yeah.
You're betraying your family, or you're betraying, your loved ones, whoever it is that you feel like it's a form of betrayal.
Because you're not
doing what they want to do.
Yeah. To make them happy.
Yeah. You're not just going with this collectivism, you're kind of like going on an individual.
But there's always that, I feel like in a family, there's always the one kid that doesn't want to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that kid was just speaking up.
Yeah. The black sheep usually is the one that sets change, right?
Yeah,
Cultural
but then the black sheep is the one who gets talked about. It's like, oh, they're and you're on the outside. When really maybe you were just comfortable saying no, or you didn't want to do something, so you just didn't do it. But that was always looked down upon, and so if you kind of saw that in someone and they did it,
we would look at other siblings and be like, ooh, I wouldn't be that brave.
Yeah, now they're talking crap about them. I don't want to be them.
Yeah.
So you just kind of learn like that's not the way to do it. Only now we're realizing we are sacrificing our own mental health, in order to stay in that family dynamic. So in many cultures, family is considered the highest priority, right? And the concepts of loyalty and respect, they can discourage you from setting personal boundaries. So maybe not so much. Maybe less in Western culture, but think about other, cultures where it would never even be heard of to say no to something that your mom or your grandmother or whoever wanted to do. And, there's something to be said for, you want the people around you to be happy, but if it's at your own expense, your own mental health, then maybe it's time for a change. And, sometimes you got to go first.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not saying that it's easy, because we often feel an obligation to our family members, and many of them have sacrificed for us and supported us. So there may be just kind of this sense of guilt if you're wanting to say no to something. You know? And then you add to that you've probably taken different roles in the family. So
the caretakers,
the peacekeeper. Yeah. Then it's like, well, now I'm stepping out of a role, then who am I? So it's a lot of being tangled up in things. If you're the one that says, well, I'm always the one here to help, or I always host, right? That's something too. I always host everything.
Yeah.
And you're kind of known for that. And I remember, way back, I felt like that was me. And let me tell you, that's when I learned about my need for perfectionism. Went pretty deep. So you'd come over and the table would be set like, it would look like Martha Stewart.
Oh my goodness.
Had taken a dump in there,
Well, you kind of set the tone for the rest of us. Because
I'm sorry.
To follow, we all had to really step up to that.
Like, are these the napkins we used last year? Because ew,
No, it wasn't at that level. But I mean, you really
color
did.
Coordinated.
Do you think that you put those expectations on yourself, though?
I totally put those expectations on myself because I wanted things to look perfect. That's a whole nother set of issues that I had. But let me tell you, behind the scenes, there was so much stress, and I was probably pretty mean to my family, like before the party started.
Yeah, your immediate family.
Yes, the people that were my children and my husband. Like there was just like.
Is that why there was tears when we showed up?
Probably.
I thought they were happy to see me.
No, probably it was probably like, oh my gosh, mom's doing that thing again, and it just so it would look a certain way or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm laughing at you only because I was the same way with going on trips, and like if we're going, I was always expected to kind of get the trailer ready, get the toys or whatever, the boat, the buggies, all that stuff felt like a lot of pressure, and I was putting it on myself, but at the expense of others, I think.
Yeah.
And those things, I think you have to find a place where you find the balance, you know, to your loyalty or to your mental health. You know what I mean? To your own things that you need to get done.
But we make it an either or. So it's, it's not like I can host a nice family gathering and, take care of myself in that and still provide a place for family to come and have a good time and it be fine. Like we think we have to do one or the other. I have to completely sacrifice, make it look this way, make it perfect, because I'm living up to some weird standard in my head at the expense of myself. Now I'm exhausted, or maybe I feel resentful, whatever that is.
So how do we start setting boundaries that actually stick?
Oof.
And don't leave us feeling like we've done something wrong.
Ooh, well,
How do you break that down?
I think the first part, you have to identify what your needs are.
Yeah, you got to recognize.
What do you need to feel safe?
Feel safe, yeah, respected and comfortable within your family relationships.
Yeah.
You got to voice that. You got to have, find your voice.
Well, and hopefully you don't get to a breaking point, where you're just like, I just can't, I can't do this anymore, or I can't be in a conversation with this person anymore, or whatever that is. It's like really recognizing what is it that I need in order to not make this an either or. So one of the things I would say is like, to journal about it, right? Because sometimes just journaling about it or talking about it with someone you trust, you can start to kind of move that energy and really like pick at what is there and what's important to you. What's
consistently there.
Yeah. So it's just make a list of situations that consistently cause you stress or make you feel uncomfortable. Maybe it just starts with that. Maybe doing that, you can recognize what are the situations that make you feel stressed out.
Choose your battles in a way, kind of recognizing those things and seeing where you speak up.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a period of choosing your battles because I think you have to look at like, especially if you're first moving into that space of being able to be authentic to yourself, is sometimes just starting small, with something until you get a little bit.
Yeah,
more
we say that a lot. You start with something small, and work into the bigger things.
Yeah. Start with something small, but first realize what is it that's stressing you out. So for example, with the holidays coming, does it stress you out? I know for Armando and I, when we were younger and we had, small kids and we each have families. And actually, I remember every holiday, we would probably argue on the way to the family gathering, right? If we weren't hosting it, because, we both have parents. And our parents were divorced, so sometimes we'd see one here and one there, and then we'd have to go see his family. Splitting time, and it's stressful getting from one place to another. And, Christmas didn't always feel that merry, when you're doing that, or Thanksgiving. And so really, we had to come to a place where we recognize, like, actually, this is a big point of stress. And if the main thing that we wanted to accomplish was for our kids to feel happy and for us to feel happy together and enjoy each other's company, this can't continue. Like something's got to give. Yeah. Or they're rushing around, being on the road and the kids are
just
tired.
Just being able to say no, like we can only make it to this place or that.
Yeah. But then here comes guilt and shame, and not wanting to disappoint anyone.
It goes back to your quote.
Yeah. So how do you do that? And, I'm not going to be the one to tell you this is how you do that. But I think recognizing that it's a stress point, if it is maybe coming up with some other solutions. The hard part is then communicating that in a way that feels still loving. And I think that if you're clear about why it is you're doing what you're doing, and you can get to a neutral place in yourself, meaning it's not charged. You're not in the moment of trying to rush from that one place to the other. But maybe before all that happens is just to say, this is what I need. Like, it's really stressful for us to go from one place to another in such a rush.
And doing that writing may ease the way that you have that conversation. It's almost like having a first, second, and third draft of like what needs the conversations you need to have.
Yeah. And I think in the beginning, when you're first practicing setting healthy boundaries, that maybe writing them out and practicing them with your significant other or friend, or like I said, somebody you trust is probably a good way. But in the moment, hopefully you're just in a neutral place where you can just say, this is what I need and why, and be okay with whatever the response is. That's part of it, because you don't get to choose the response of the person that you're communicating that with. But if you know why you're doing it, then it'll help you to kind of stay true to.
So identifying them is the critical part.
Yeah.
Is the big start.
Yeah. And then when you talk about communicating it, it's calmly and kindly, So clear language, direct language, like the more you're trying to give too many details about it, it's like you're trying to convince yourself. It's just clear, concise. It's just focus on what your needs are, rather than blaming anyone else.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is what I need. I need, like, for example, with the rushing around from house to house, is just, we really need the kids to feel rested and that we feel happy to be together. And we're not all kind of yelling at each other, or rushing each other everywhere, because that doesn't really feel good to us or to them. As opposed to blaming.
Yeah.
It's like, you want us to be here and they want us to be there. It's like, no, it's not about blaming the other people, because that's going to put them on the defense.
Yeah, we only have so much time, and we're just trying to make the best of it. And those plans to make it yours, unfortunately, we don't think we're not going to be able to make it.
Yeah, we'd love to.
We'd love to, yeah.
But
Send
I
our
think
love.
this is what we need to do for us.
Yeah.
And I hope you understand.
Yeah, and that's a super healthy way to communicate something like that.
Yeah, you could, I know this is important to you, but I need to take some time for myself right now. Or I appreciate how much you care, about this, but this is what I need to do I have to make my own decision on this.
Yeah, it's important to me.
Yeah. So just assertive communication. And that actually has been shown to improve relationships and reduce resentment, right? Because if you're going and you're resenting what you're doing, or if you're, having a conversation and you don't want to be in it, that's going to get communicated in, energetically, or just being able to be with someone. Like, you don't really want to be here, do you?
Yeah, family members are going to react,
they're going to,
negatively or protective of their own values. And it's important to know that's normal.
Yeah,
and
that's okay.
This is just, part of the working through that dynamic.
Yeah. It's could be your response to pushback? What would you think you could say?
I understand this may feel different, but this is important to me. I hope you can respect that,
Yeah. Just saying, it might be different.
Yeah.
But it's important to me.
Yeah.
So I hope that's okay with you.
I think understanding, we were talking a little bit about values, and understanding how people value things differently is crucial in conflict. If you can take a moment to have compassion and look on the other side of what maybe they're valuing, because I think a lot of it is they don't see, they don't want to spend time with me, and that maybe this person's value is quality time, but you're trying to mind your own mental health and well-being and balance that, your own personal life, and you could let them know, because you can understand where their value is. So I think it's a helpful thing to just understand the other person's values and what maybe be triggering them about the resistance.
Whatever it is,
the resistance to you, and just try to see it from their perspective.
Yeah, I think that when we talk about like moving into the observer of what's happening, so if you're going into this conversation, that's probably going to be kind of triggering for the person receiving it, and maybe for yourself in their reaction, is to try and just step back into a place of compassion, or a place of just observing the conversation and being able to respond to that in a way that feels healthy, or like that you're proud of your ability to respond to that, to the pushback.
Yeah.
And like you said, like recognizing what their value is. Maybe their value is, it's really important that we have you here. We miss you, whatever that is. And being able to acknowledge, like, I know that that's important to you, but this is something that it just feels like I can't give on this because it's important to me too.
Yeah. Setting boundaries can create all kinds of emotions, especially guilt, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially guilt. So let's talk about how
first class ticket.
Stand firm without feeling like we're betraying our own family and ourselves.
Yeah.
How do we do that without betraying ourselves or our family? Because I mean, sometimes when I set these boundaries, I feel selfish in some ways.
Yeah.
And that's part of that cultural dynamics and some of the things that's just been handed down, that I think the obligations of, you got to be there for family, we have to show up and all that. But, like you said, once families start to grow, like your daughters have grown and have they're married and have in-laws of their own, like they have that same choice, not to, to try to choose between here, you and Armando, or somewhere else. And, you being on the other side of that helps because you've been there.
Yeah. I think that was one thing Armando and I really decided once our kids, had significant others, was like, you know what? We don't want to do to them what we did to ourselves, when they were younger. And so we tried to make it, where we understand you're going to go be with family. You just tell us, where you're going to be and we can work around that. Or then we would plan like a trip, during like the day after Thanksgiving, we'd all go away together. And be able to just have that time and be like, no obligation to see us on Christmas, no obligation actually to see us on Thanksgiving. We'll just have this time that's set together because the goal of the holidays sometimes is just to be together, right? Because that's the only time.
But some of it comes from guilt. I mean, that all that I hear right there is like a guilt from what you did. See what I mean? So trying to do it without putting the guilt on them.
Yeah.
Because you felt it, right?
Yeah, we tried to remove the guilt that they would feel
That's
not coming to see us.
Yeah.
But what happened is, and we planned these trips, and then it became harder and harder for them to organize themselves to come. And we realized, whoa, now we just kind of transferred it onto that.
Yeah, something different.
So it's like right now we've kind of put that on hold because it's hard for everybody to travel with children. And, it's like, you know what, we don't want to just transfer it to that. So how do we figure out how to navigate this? And I think just being aware that there is a possibility of them having to be rushed around and for us to not, we don't have to have it on that day. I think if the point is to just be together, it doesn't matter. Thanksgiving doesn't have to be on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It can be on a different day. Christmas can be celebrated on a different day that coordinates with their other family obligations and
when everybody's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the key is for us not to take it personal, that they want to go do something else and not rush around and tire themselves out or any of that. And right now we're just focusing on holiday plans, but this applies to many different things.
Yeah.
Because we talked about like with boundaries, it's not just the holidays,
no.
Right? Because that kind of goes with like time boundaries.
Yeah.
But there are different kinds of boundaries that are identified. So one of them, we got time boundaries. There's privacy boundaries. So the example would be, I'm not ready to talk about that right now, but I'll share it with you when I'm comfortable.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's probably a hard one.
Yeah. I think these should be printed out and left on the refrigerator. So everybody's like, oh, I got something to say back to that one.
Yep. Write these down.
Yeah.
So that's like if somebody's asking for a lot of personal information, or they expect you to share everything. So that would be, just setting a privacy boundary to protect your own comfort level on discussing something. Or maybe you're just not ready. But who have you ever seen anybody model that for you growing up?
No.
No. It would just feel like, you know what, I'm just going to avoid. I'm not going at all, or I'm going to avoid that person who's always asking me for more information than I'm ready to give.
Yeah.
But just being able to say, I'm just not ready to talk about it right now, but I appreciate your concern. I'll let you know when I'm ready to talk about it.
When I'm comfortable.
And then like emotional boundaries.
Okay.
I appreciate your advice, but I'd like to handle this my own way.
Yeah.
Ooh, sting.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's just letting them figure it out because, if it's a family dynamic and say you're the parent, allowing them to have that space, but just, getting away from that
positive toxicity?
Toxic positivity.
Positivity.
Yeah. I'm
guilty of that for sure. So that's just when you're getting a lot of unsolicited advice.
Yeah.
It's like, I appreciate that, but I'm gonna have to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not saying you're not being defiant, you're not being argumentative. It's just, thank you for that. Financial boundaries.
Okay.
right? I'm not ready to lend some money right now, but I can support you in other ways.
Yeah. How else can I help? Yeah.
Yeah. How about some time? Do you need me to help you with
You need
something
me to
else?
volunteer, or can I help you organize? Yeah.
But money can be a really sensitive topic,
It is.
especially in families.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to set clear boundaries when it comes to money and families,
Yeah.
because that prevents a lot of misunderstandings later, and it just can start a fractured dynamic, So when at all possible,
Avoid it.
avoid it.
Yeah.
Physical boundaries. So
With touch and
touch. That's the thing. I think now, what I think is really healthy now is I see a lot of parents that are teaching their children that you don't have to give everyone a hug.
Yeah.
And that
was forced when I was a kid.
Oh, go give Uncle so and so, and you're like,
auntie a kiss and hug, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like it's taking away their own sovereignty over their bodies, and I can see where a lot of like us old school people are like, what a little doesn't want to, and they will it's like a critique.
Yep.
But actually, it's such a healthy thing to be able to encourage your children
to have a choice,
and to say, no, it's not okay.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the healthiest things that we can teach kids.
Yeah.
And so I actually, our daughter did that with our grandkids, and I was like, wow, she sang this song, I need my space, not right now, please. And I was like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, she said it to me several times, and I was like, oh. Okay.
Yeah. And, it's up to this grown adult to realize it's not personal.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means they're exercising their own autonomy.
Yeah.
And isn't that a wonderful thing to do to bring into adulthood?
If you're not from the old school of like, I am king.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that one. I don't know. I think, teach that one.
Yeah.
You young parents out there, go with that. Find that song. Teach them the song. Conversational boundaries. So this probably is an important one coming up around politics, during family gatherings. And okay, so the example is, I'd rather not discuss politics during family gatherings. Let's keep it light.
Yeah.
So, or you can just shift. You don't need to participate in like just going down a rabbit hole and just being able to shift the conversation.
Well, at a family gathering, it can, while two people can have a healthy discussion, it can definitely pull the vibe away from,
it can lead to conflict. It's just probably the last thing you want.
It's election day, soon, and there's a lot of stuff going on. And, family, recently I was at a party and my son and his uncle were having discussion about politics, and it just got deep, and we were like,
it can get pretty
we got to go.
heated.
We got to leave. It was, we gave them an extra hour because they were having a discussion, but it was like, okay, now we got to go.
Yeah.
And that's some of the reason why, and this was at a birthday party, a kid's birthday party.
Yeah, thanks.
So it's like, let's not
Happy
do it.
birthday.
Yeah, let's save that for another time, which they then switched it to a different platform, and they were able to have a healthier conversation that didn't pull everybody else in.
I think at a family gathering, probably not the best idea. Yeah. Unless both people are willing to say, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Let me hear what you have to say. I'll consider that because I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But you have to have both people willing to say that, because otherwise you're going to have a conflict.
Well, I heard with that quote, that post we had, or you posted on Serenity Cove about, I could be wrong. If you can't say I could be wrong, then you'll never say I was wrong.
Yeah.
You have to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Another one is emotional support boundaries.
Tell me about this one.
Like you have people who just want to get together or call you and dump, and I get that. I think that we should be there for people, but there's, you're not always in a place to receive it. I remember hearing something about this group of friends. I think it was a group of men who would say, do you have 8 minutes?
Oh yeah. We talked about
that. And I just love that. Cause like, do you have 8 minutes? That told the friend, hey, I know
that kind of talk.
You really actually need some support. Can you give me 8 minutes? And it's like, yes. So now they're ready to receive whatever that's going on. But one of the examples is to respond is, I care about you, but I'm not able to talk about this right now. Maybe we can revisit it later. And it's okay to have things that you need to do, or things that you're attending to, or that you're not always available.
And you gotta remind yourself of where you're at.
Yeah. Are you in a place?
Your nervous system. Are you in a safe place to respond?
Yeah.
Are you able to respond healthy?
And are you also, you talk about the roles. We talked about the roles that people take on. Have you taken on the role as I am the support person? I am the person that's always available. Okay, that's great if you feel good about that and it's not like kind of robbing you of your own ability to show up, So I think that's really important to be able to recognize. And then the last one before we move on is digital communication boundaries. That's when people expect that you always have your phone on you. It's like, why didn't you answer me? Why didn't you text me back? That's one that's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't check my messages constantly, but I'll get back to you as soon as I can. See, but some family members are like, mom, auntie, whatever is calling all the time. It's like, how come you didn't pick up? How come you? Well, sometimes you can't. And so maybe it's just communicating the expectation or what can be expected so that that poor person doesn't feel like you are slighting them or you don't care.
Yeah.
But you're just but you've got to be honest, right? Or else you're just going to go into.
Yeah. Because without that conversation of letting them know in that way,
you're going to go into avoidance.
You're going into avoidance and they're going to feel kind of like blocked out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you're going to feel guilty. You're going to get that one-way ticket on the guilt trip.
And that's what we're trying to avoid here with setting boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I think the thing we want to remind people of is it's okay if some families don't fully understand and agree with your boundaries. Because that self-approval and respecting personal needs can come first. It's okay. Start small.
Yeah.
First recognize what your needs are and then just find ways to communicate that in a way that's kind and compassionate, but direct.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right. That's been another episode of Let That Shift Go podcast. I'm Noel.
And I'm Lina. Let us know what your questions are, and we'd love to use them on a future episode. Or check us out on Insta at Let That Shift Go, or visit our website, serenitycovetemecula.com.